You're listening to Across the Pondcast. Cybersecurity rants and war stories from both sides of the Atlantic.
Hello and welcome to Across the Pondcast, a show where we talk and occasionally rant about cybersecurity topics with perspectives from both sides of the Atlantic. I am Tib3rius. I'm joined, as always, by my lovely co-host, Mr. Andy Swift. Andy, how are you doing?
I am really good, thank you. My little tickle biscuit. Sun is shining, and we're recording in the daytime, which is makes a huge difference to me because I'm not half asleep, which is nice.
Yes, we usually record these in Andy's evening, sometimes late at night for him, because I'm obviously 5 hours behind. Most of the time, I wasn't for the last month, because stupid daylight savings time. America, for some reason, I don't know, we put our clocks forward 4 weeks before the UK, but then we both go back at the same time. It makes zero sense. I hate it.
It's just to throw us off. I think it's taken us like 4 or 5 attempts to sync up the right times together.
Yeah, and he was like texting me this morning, like, are we going to record? And I'm like, isn't it in an hour?
It's the second time that's happened as well. So anyway, we finally got here, and I also haven't had to wrestle my child into bed before going here, so more energy. Right, what are we talking about today?
Well, the title of today's episode is Adventures in Social Engineering. We've done a few social engineering engagements in our time, Swift, and today we're going to reminisce about them a bit.
Yes, good times. We haven't been violently caught yet.
Yeah, this is not a coal fire story. This is not Darknet Diaries. We had some fun, though.
No, like, social engineering is always a really fun topic, and it's always a thing everybody wants to get into when you have like new people come into the team, juniors come in. The first thing they want to do is red teaming, and frankly, it fills me with dread because until you put someone on the spot in a physical situation, you never really know how they're going to react or pan out or what they're going to do, especially if their background is in technical and they've come from a technical industry. And you're like, okay, well, you've been a programmer your whole life. I don't know how good you are at lying face to face to someone, because funnily enough, most people don't get into that situation day to day, or they try not to.
Yeah. Before we start, this show is made possible thanks to our sponsors. If you want to sponsor an episode, please send an email to sponsors@acrossthepondcast.net for more details. All right. Do you want to kick us off? Because I think you started doing social engineering before me.
Not by choice.
You were forced into it.
I was forced into it by our dear friend, our old manager. Yeah. When I first came into this, we'll start at the beginning because it's a nice place to start usually.
Can we start at the end?
We can. Less cliffhangers. I mean, you start with a big bang and then you go, ooh, it's like a tiny squeak at the beginning. Yeah. So start at the beginning. So when I first came into this industry, I didn't know a huge amount about social engineering. It wasn't hugely broadcast that this was a big thing that people do all the time. I was very much pen testing as a technical thing only. It's all programming, exploit development, yada, 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 with a bit of forensics on the side. That was my kind of entry path to get to where I got to. I didn't know there was a social engineering part to it as such, other than outside of like phishing and stuff like that. I wasn't aware of the extent people just go and walk into buildings and stuff. I always assumed that was somebody else that maybe did that. Wouldn't be me. And then my manager came up to me one day and he was like, we're going to do some social engineering. And it was a small startup firm, as you know. So really, it was more kind of case of, if someone came to us and asked you to do a job, you kind of just did it instead of being picky. Because like, yeah, we can do that. It's like, so we're doing social engineering today. Have we ever done that before? No, but you're going to give it a go. I was like, okay, good. This is excellent. It's like, what type of social engineering have you agreed to do with the client? And the first thing he had agreed with them was phone-based social engineering, which I hate. Did you ever get to do any of that?
Oh, yes.
At the same place?
Yeah. Yeah, I think so. It's weird. Like, I don't honestly like talking on the phone that much anyway. Like, I never have to call something. I'm like, oh, this is just awkward. I much prefer like face-to-face stuff. But yeah, social engineering is just weird. I don't like doing phone calls. I don't like cold calling. I'd be a terrible salesperson. I can do social engineering if it's like on site, trying to actually break into places. And I guess, what does that say about me? Like, I'm better at lying to people to their faces.
You just prefer the face-to-face lie. What kind of person are you? Monster!
That's really bad.
It is. Your moral compass is bent as well. So I'm the same, though. I like to avoid phone calls with people where I can. I don't know why. I'll happily speak in front of audiences. I'll happily record this stuff. But yeah, phone calls, for whatever reason, I've never really liked them. And as I've got older, I've grown into, become more confident with that sort of stuff. And I don't mind so much now, like making phone calls or anything like that. But back when I'd first started and I was very junior, that just filled me with absolute dread, to be perfectly honest.
I think everything fills you with dread when you're a junior.
Yeah, it does, doesn't it?
You're going to use Nessus and scan something that doesn't belong to you for the first time. Oh, goodness.
Yeah. I remember going into the first sort of calls I had with like clients and things, and that being a really big thing. Like, oh God, a client call. What if I say the wrong thing and all that type of stuff? But yeah, you get used to it, don't you? You grow out of it and it becomes a bit more natural. But yeah, the first one was this, just phone-based social engineering. We had a number of targets to phone up, and we had to find the targets, find out who worked there, and work out what numbers we're phoning. We ended up speaking to some receptionists, I think, right at the beginning. We ended up pretending to be like the classic, like, we're from IT type of thing. It was really, looking back on it now, really crude. And like the sort of stuff that if you did it today would just get you hung up on instantly. And I think that's the thing. So phone-based social engineering doesn't feel like it has the same impact as it used to 10, 15 years ago. Because I think it still works its way into certain red teaming engagements, and sometimes that sort of stuff still works, but it's usually baked into like a wider concept. So we've had a few in the past where we've done red teaming engagements where we've done things like booking hot desks and things like that in various organizations, and we've turned up at the front and we've managed to book a hot desk with somebody else's name or something like that and been allowed straight through. That stuff's worked quite nicely. But just cold calling, phones-based social engineering, I don't think that works so well anymore. So we were phoning up going, we see you've got a problem with your ID. Like really vague sort of stuff, and just going, if you just give us your username and password, we could do the remote thing. And it's like, that's terrible. A terrible first experience. I was so nervous doing it. But it was... I don't think it was particularly successful either, to be honest, even in those days. We did get usernames and passwords out of it. Depended who we phoned up. Yeah. So, I think like a secretary gave us their password, which was quite funny back then. But the impact's not so great with that stuff now. But then moving on to the second experience was way more entertaining, because that was an actual physical one where I got to not be on the phone. Yeah,
physical going on site for social engineering is always fun.
It is. Your first time is like a trip into the unknown. Cue Frozen music. But I remember like the first time I did it, I was on the Underground, like the London Underground, going to the client's, like the target site. And we had a plan, we had like entire backstories and everything to memorize of like who we are, why we were there, what we were going to say, what we were going to ask for, and all of that sort of backstory goodness. I remember being so nervous just on the train. I was literally like shaking as I went along on this train. God, I don't know what to do. I don't know what to expect. I don't know how it's going to go down. And like we had prepared for it for so long, like weeks and weeks of preparation into this and research into the target and stuff. But I got so nervous, but managed to pull it off. I do remember one guy we hired to do this sort of stuff. He was a little bit more confident than me, quite a lot more confident than me. And we ended up sending him along, and he ended up getting lost and going into the wrong building. He got in, but he was sat down in this office, and he was just sat in just the wrong person's office. Like, oh my God, you can't do that. But
performed a free social engineering engagement for another customer.
By the way, we got in. Just the wrong building. But you can never tell with that sort of stuff, like how someone's going to be like that. And it turns out this guy is like notoriously really bad with directions. Like his wife was even like, I don't know why you picked him to do that. He can't find his way to the car park most times. So but you never know. You never know until you get in front of someone how comfortable someone is, like lying to somebody else's face. You're very comfortable with it.
I think honestly thinking about it now, I think it's more of the adrenaline. Like if you're just phoning somebody up, that's not really, and like lying to somebody over the phone, is kind of like you're kind of safe, right? Because if they start asking you awkward questions or sussing you out, you can just hang up.
Yeah.
If you're there and actually lying to somebody, directly to their face, I think maybe the adrenaline helps. At least in my case. I'm well known in my circle of friends over here, and this is not a humble brag. This does relate. I'm very good at hidden identity games. Like, me and my friend Helen,
Imposter.
some people will know Helen of Tor. Me and my friend Helen of Tor, if we are ever on the same sort of imposter team in Among Us or Secret Hitler, we just dominate. There's no stopping us. Yeah, the amount of gaslighting I've done on my friends in hidden identity games. And I don't know why. Maybe it's because I did some social engineering in the past, and I don't know. But I think it's the adrenaline as well. It just helps you focus, and your lies, even the ones that aren't necessarily would be that convincing if you just said them with a straight face, because you're so freaking just determined to get away with this lie.
Yeah.
Overbearing confidence is really, really useful in social engineering.
It is. We always used to say, like with physical social engineering, the best people to do it are the really confident, ballsy salespeople. Because they are so confident, with lying to people day in, day out. But they're also very confident people and will be able to string a sentence together under pressure. And that, I think, you mentioned adrenaline. Adrenaline works in two ways in those situations. It either spurs you on, takes you to greater things, or helps you think quicker, or you have too much of it flowing through your veins and it goes the complete opposite direction. You end up falling to pieces. It's the same as if you've ever done like anything like competitive racing or anything like that, or swimming like I did back in the day. It's that whole level of nerves and things like that. There's a nice sweet spot of being nervous and just ready for the event, and going over the brink and over the edge where you end up, where your nerves have a negative effect on you, start pulling you back and like really degrading your performance quite a lot. So yeah, it's maybe not one for the anxious, but those, a shout out to anyone who is good at those games. I love playing them with my little friendship group. We've been gaming together since we were like 10 or something. And then things like Among Us came along, and Lockdown Protocol. Fantastic game. If you've ever played...
Very good game.
Definitely. If you've ever played Lockdown Protocol or Among Us and you're good at it, seriously get into social engineering, because you'll probably fly. And it's so cool seeing like the people in your friendship group who you've known for years trying to lie to your face. And then it's really revealing, because some of them are very good at it, like really good at it. And some of them are terrible at it. Like really bad. Like, Lockdown Protocol, some people just freeze and go like, why are you doing that? That doesn't make any sense, that task. Why are you trying to do it? And like, I just know. And they pull out a shotgun and blow your head off. And they're like, didn't even try to lie, did you? So those sorts of things really do help, actually. If you're struggling to think on the spot, go get some friends and play on those. For sure. There you go. I'm recommending a game.
Especially if you play it with friends and you have like mics enabled, because obviously with Among Us, there's always like you just play regular Among Us, it's all like text based. You just type to people, which is like, it's very easy to lie.
It gives you time to think.
You're just typing stuff. Yeah. So definitely, practice social engineering, get a friend group, play Among Us or Lockdown Protocol, or even you can play Secret Hitler online as like a browser app and literally have a Discord party and do it. And you'll learn to lie quickly.
You'll soon get used to it. And it puts a fun spin on it as well. Maybe she is, that's training material. Training material in inverted commas. A training day at work, maybe. I'll put that to my boss. Social engineering training day. We're gonna learn to...
It does work though.
It does, especially if you've had a few beers. I don't think I'll be getting that signed off. But it really does work. So this second experience, I'll bring things like back on track to our show notes, because we've gone all the way from like social engineering to game reviews. We would do an episode on that, our favorite games and how they've helped us develop.
Our favorite cybersecurity related games. So we have to link that in.
Yeah,
there are quite a few of them.
There are. I doubt I can get Counter-Strike in there, but there are. So my second experience with it was, I can't say too much, but a local government department, let's just say, who governs certain things. We keep it very mysterious. And this was a physical one, so no phones were involved in this one. So it's an actual physical on-site one. And we managed to do the usual, walk our way in and just blagged our way past like the front desk with some very basic information. We're here to see so-and-so. So we did a bit of research about who was in the building, got some names and stuff. We're here to see so-and-so for a meeting, and just walked straight in. Confidence is really big when you're just walking past people. The more confident you are and the quicker you are, and like if you're in a rush sort of thing, the more you find people leave you alone a little bit. So that shining confidence is something that's quite hard to get if you look like you're not meant to be there. You look a bit nervous. The natural human instinct is to try and help people, funnily enough. So if you're looking lost, someone will say, "Are you lost?" Or yeah, and then your story will just start to unravel if you're not really careful. Super confident walking through there. And we ended up having so much fun in that office because we had pretty much free reign over it all. We sat down in their canteen for a little while. We made ourselves a cup of tea, which for me was hilarious at the time because this was my first job and I just didn't. As I sat there in their canteen thinking, "Oh, this is my actual job. I'm just breaking into people's buildings, making myself cups of tea." It's a very British thing to do. But we managed to go around things like all their printers, take loads of information off of them, various printouts we had. We managed to swipe a few passes off tables and such. And it was quite liberating, quite exciting. And then security got wind of what we were doing and started chasing after us. But not in the sort of speedy, chasey way where you're being chased and you're definitely running away from someone. It was that kind of slow chase where they just walk after you and "What are you doing?" And they're sort of onto you, watching you. And we're like, "Where do we go? Where do we go?" And they're panicking like we'd never been in a situation before but the toilet, let's go into the toilet. And like me and this other guy who I was with.
The one place where there's only one exit.
Yeah, it's the worst decision ever. They went into the toilet and we came out like 5-10 minutes later and luckily he had gone away, so he carried on.
Because you're just like, I can't be asked to wait for whatever these two are doing.
Ended up just walking out. And he still caught us because he was waiting at the bottom of the stairs, which was the only exit to the building as well. So his thought trail must have been beautiful. He must have just walked past the toilet and gone, "Amateurs." And just walked away, gone to like the bottom of the stairs. Like, "I'll just wait here for them. They've got to come out at some point."
Yep.
So yeah, he waited at the bottom of the stairs. And there we got taken to one side quite briskly and put into a situation where we couldn't really explain ourselves. I'll put it that way. And we never leave, and I think a lot of red teams do this, to be honest, when we're doing social engineering. We never leave or go anywhere without having 2 letters of authority on our person at any given time, right? You always have, not so much for your benefit, but for the beautiful listeners, you always have one on your top half in a pocket somewhere or on top half of your body, and always one like the bottom half of your body. For that weird situation like this one, where you are up against a wall with a security guard behind you, asking why the hell you're here and what you're doing, making yourself malicious cups of tea in the canteen. And yeah, we had to...
Stealing tea, Swift.
Yeah. It turns out he'd seen us swiping a few passes and things as well. He was watching on cameras. So yeah, he did catch us, so bravo to him. But yeah, always carry those 2 letters with you. You never know. And the last thing you want to be doing is reaching into like a suspicious pocket somewhere. So it's usually best to like just direct them to go, "Look, pocket over here," or like sock down here, or whatever it is. And just, yeah, and don't be suspicious. Don't be suspicious. So yeah, big learning curve that time. Learn a lot. Don't hide in toilets, number 1.
Yep.
Yeah. And the second big learning thing is make sure you've always got those like letters of authority, just to make sure, and always carry 2 of them. Get them signed by the right people. I see a lot of people getting them signed by the wrong people who don't really have authority over the building.
That's how the coal fire incident happened, right?
Yeah.
That was like the state thinking they had jurisdiction over a local courthouse, like a county court. It was crazy. And I guess maybe they do. I don't know. It was insane.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I see it a lot.
I don't know which Darknet episode that was. I'm going to find out, though, so we can plug it. Episode 59, The Courthouse of Darknet Diaries. Definitely worth a watch. It's one of my favorite episodes, just because they go into so much detail about what went wrong with this social engineering engagement. And like, it wasn't just that they got caught. If you think the story is, they got caught and put in jail and because their letter of authority didn't work. No, that's like the beginning. There's a whole saga. The episode is definitely worth listening to because it gets crazy.
Go watch. So sometimes social engineering is all just learning and learning what works and what doesn't work. And sometimes the mistakes are really good to pay attention to. They make the best stories anyway, I tend to find. It's either the best successes or the worst ones where you've been caught. They tend to make the best stories to tell. Stuff in the middle is just meh. But yeah, so he ended up catching us. Carry 2 of those letters. Lesson learnt for future references. But yeah, that was my first ever one. Nothing particularly complicated, just walking around a building. But it was that confidence you had to have. And I had to turn it on after shaking on the tube and not knowing what to do. But yeah, it's always good if you've got someone with you as well to work off. I tend to find
for
two of you down there is so much more confidence inspiring. Or if you go in with a plan of a distraction technique or something like that, that's always way more powerful. But yeah, pretty good.
Yeah, my first, I feel like my first must have been like cloning websites and the phone call stuff. I always enjoyed the cloning websites is fun, especially if it's like just a dinky little simple website. And our go-to was we would clone it. It was like we register a domain that looked very similar. So if their site was .co.uk, we might try for like .org.uk or something, or having an extra letter in there that looked similar. And then cloning their website, hosting it, but then putting like an IT survey. And the reason, the reasoning for the IT survey was, who doesn't like to complain about IT?
Exactly, everybody.
Everybody loves to complain about IT. And what we would do, we'd have this survey and we'd have a login page. And you're like, oh, you have to log in using your network credentials to complete the survey, which makes sense, right? Because otherwise anyone could complete it. And it would literally just accept any username and password. And it stored them. It just sent them to a database. It's, yep, I'll have that. And then it presented with the survey. And we would ask interesting questions, like what kind of network devices do you use? Because we wanted to get information as well, to see if we get anything about how their network worked and how were they a Windows shop? Do they predominantly use Mac OS X, Linux? So that was useful. But then the credentials were the main thing. They were like, oh, okay, good. And I know that was usually very successful. Like we usually came away with quite a few sets of credentials. The trick there though was obviously doing your initial recon on LinkedIn at the time. So figuring out what their emails looked like, which you could generally cheat because you had access to the person who'd paid for the social engineering engagement.
Yeah.
Usually if their email was first name dot last name @company, you were like, okay, that's easy enough. Then LinkedIn. And the caution about there, though, is obviously when you're doing your LinkedIn scraping and everything, you can't just come away with a list of names and do the formatting and then just send them out. Because some of those people will work in IT. Here's a top tip. Here's a pro tip from me. If you're trying to do a social engineering engagement where you're trying to get people to complain about IT by sending them a fake IT form, don't send that to anyone in IT.
It's liable to get you caught pretty quick.
That will not only get you caught, it'll probably get like a massive email sent out, or they'll probably just literally remotely delete that email from everybody's inbox. Yeah. So that was the one thing we had to do. We had to be very careful and plan it out and be like, okay, are we absolutely sure this person does not work in IT? If they don't list what they do on their LinkedIn, like specifically, you maybe avoid them or send them an email later if we fail everything else. But yeah, I remember that was always fun because it was just like, it was kind of like funny just seeing all the results come in.
Well, that stuff's kind of evolved as well now, hasn't it? We're talking about times before we had a lot of tooling to do that sort of stuff for us now anyway. And there's that kind of world and approach still happens. It's not gone away. It's just evolved and gone even further than it has now. Like now we have entire frameworks to do that kind of stuff. We have entire frameworks to do attacker in the middle, like token impersonation type stuff as well. And it's gone from that sort of very simple, put your credentials in here, click yes to go, to this whole sort of managed credential forwarding, token forwarding type monster. So we still use those techniques very widely, but it is interesting when you get those clients coming towards you to do like things like phishing campaigns. And can you just target our entire user base for our phishing training purposes, and you end up putting a test together? But I always argue I don't think those are too successful ever when you're targeting too many people with the same thing, the same content, with the same campaign, because someone, that's like you just said there, someone at some point will alert somebody to it, and people are better at that nowadays than they used to be. Before, yes, if you send it to the IT guy, you're screwed. But now, generally, people's ability to report stuff is a lot more widespread across the organization. And while that's a good thing, I think for us, in terms of a phishing engagement, a phishing campaign, it's not too helpful, especially if you're trying to red team your way in somewhere. So usually find that doing your research first Again, like you said, taking it back to those basics, working out who you're sending them to, what times, turning it into more of a spear phishing campaign, because a widespread phishing campaign that's highly generalized just doesn't have the same effect it used to. It's very much borderline, not useless, but it will get you caught a lot quicker, especially in red teaming where you've only got so many attempts to do it. It's not like an attacker who you can just sit there over and over again over the course of a year, 2 years, and try various different things, like your client's paying for your time. So you've only got a couple of shots to do it in. So you're much better off with a highly concentrated spear phishing that is relatable to them. Do your research first than it isn't that just general, put your credentials in here type of thing. Those things are getting, unfortunately, unfortunately for us, caught in the net very quickly these days, which is annoying. But physical social engineering, however, people seem to still not have much of an answer for that. And it baffles me that so many like certifications leave this side of things off, but I don't know how you would actually go about testing it. So I'm doing that thing where you can point at a problem but not really suggest any solutions. How do you measure it? Because there's so many red teaming certifications out there that don't include actual physical anything really. It's all very focused on technical, and it's such a shame because it's a huge part of. Ask any red teamer. It's a huge part of most engagements, to be honest.
I think the main issue you're always going to come across with testing for that is you can't, like in an ideal world, all the people would be aware of what's going on, right? So if you had a fake office for testing, like, social engineer your way into this office. Well, if it's a fake office already, then all the people inside know what's going on, right? They're going to be on the lookout, and then that's immediately unfair. You shouldn't. So it's complicated. Also, that would be prohibitively expensive.
Oh, yeah.
You had to hire like an entire staff to pretend to work. And if you don't do that, so if you actually do it with some kind of, say you do it at DEF CON, right? But then you've got the issue of, okay, but then people at DEF CON aren't consenting.
Yeah.
So
where do you do it?
It's exactly. You can't, which is a shame.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's an impossible thing to measure, until you get someone with confirmed experience in it. And that's really the only way you find out, which is somewhat annoying. But there's literally no way of testing it properly. So you see why it gets done. But it's, the physical side of it is interesting. I was a bit nervous at it first time. I remember the first time I went with you to go and do some stuff.
Was the hotel,
right? Yeah. Yeah, a
very posh hotel.
A very posh one. So
we can't say the name, but let's just say it's London, so already set your expectations. Extremely posh hotel.
They're worldwide.
And
so the job came up about a year ago again. So long after your time. But same client, they came back and they wanted us to do an internal pen test, but in Sicily, and they wanted us to go there. They didn't want us to like VPN there, or they wanted us to go there. We're like, okay, can we stay in the hotel? Can put us out there? So one of my guys got a nice weekend in Sicily. Hotel.
That's awesome. They're the kind of on-sites I enjoy.
The one by the side of a pool.
Not the time that Ed sent us to New Jersey. Sorry to anyone listening who's in New Jersey. I've driven on your turnpike. It's not good.
Yeah, there were some sus hotels we went to, but really odd ones. I remember one of them.
Well, me and Ed stayed in Manhattan, so that was nice.
I don't remember staying in Manhattan.
That was. I swear, me and Ed had a hotel in Manhattan.
Oh yeah, he sent me to rough places. Yeah. Cheers. I remember one of our hotels. I had this mysterious bump in the middle of it, like under the carpet. It was just cat shaped, and we're like, oh, squishy. Lord knows what it was.
But this hotel
was digressing.
The social ended. Yeah. I remember it because it was my first. I believe it was my first on-site in social engineering engagement, and I didn't know what to expect. We'd obviously the hotel, the top security guy at the hotel was aware. Nobody else was, I don't think. No. And part of it was he'd registered a room under a fake name that he gave us, and we were supposed to see if we could get access to that room. So without showing ID, because obviously it's a fake person. It would be easy if it was in your name, and then you just rock up and I lost my key. Like, oh, here's my ID. Lovely. That's not social engineering. The point was, it's a fake name. We're not that person. Try and get access to their room. And there's a really secure hotel. I remember that bit specifically that they passed with flying colors, because we went up to the receptionist and we were like, I think it was you actually. You're like, I'm this person, fake name. I left my key I locked my key in my room. And she asked, can I see your ID? And you were like, it's in my wallet. Like the key was in the wallet. I left the wallet in the room. And she's like, oh, okay. And then escorts us up to the room with her key card. And we're walking down the hallway and we're like realizing, yeah, she's going to like immediately open the door for us, find the wallet. Can I check your ID? And so we just, okay, we're going to give the letter and tell her like, this was a social engineering engagement. Please don't report us, but well done. You passed. Yeah. So they did that very well.
I remember like walking up to her room and she was like sort of leading the way and us both going behind her like going, oh God, she's not going to leave. She's not going to leave. How do we get her to leave? So you can't just throw a rock and just go, oh no, over there, like an NPC from a game. No, we just didn't know how to lose her. And it's one of those things where she was so spot on with her reaction and the way she handled and dealt with us. She followed every protocol they had for not just letting people run right around the hotel or going to rooms they shouldn't be. She followed absolutely every single protocol. And we got to that stage where we got to the room and there's nothing, there's literally nowhere we can really go from here to further this part of the exercise. So well done her.
It was good. The rest of the hotel was just open though. We were like, we got into the kitchens. That was fun. They had I think they had a small like cinema room as well, and we got into that.
Yes, we did.
And then plugged into their network. They had like network ports available. So that was all good.
Yeah, so we got access to the internal network, but from other areas of the hotel.
But the rest of it was like all hotel rooms. Never saw the inside of a hotel room because that was just a pain. But you did get to wear your little gadget. You had a little camera pen.
My little camera pen. It's been on several adventures. That has my little spy pen. Yeah, that was really cool. Well, I felt really cool back in the day. Less cool when you wear it in public. Yeah, it's just it's a little pen. I don't have it with me, but it's sort of pen size.
I think people know what a pen looks like.
People know what a pen. Swift, do you remember pens?
Still use pens, Swift.
No way.
I'm a pen tester.
Whoa! I have many a biro and crayon. Yeah, I just had a little camera, a little pinhole camera, and it recorded for a crazy amount of time, like 4 hours or something, which was pretty cool. Like pretty low resolution at the time, but yeah, it was decent. It got some good footage. It's always that reporting in red teaming is a really weird area because there's certain things you do in red teaming. It's really hard to put down in words in like a PDF report. So I always find when our output from our pen tests or our red teaming engagements are usually, there's always a PDF report one way or another. People expect that part of it, but there's always part of it that's like a physical delivery of some kind of presentation or some kind of footage or something, because it's some things you do during that engagement. It's really hard to put down into words how and why it worked so well, and that and the impact of showing people is really important as well. That gets you major sort of kudos, and you tend to find out that the people who are engaging, especially in the UK, in red team engagements, are the ones that really want to fix something they've seen, or they've seen an issue with their organization. They really want some budget to go and fix something. It's usually the reason people jump for red teaming, to try and step up the attacks. So it's usually really good to get their stakeholders in a room and show this kind of stuff, because it's really eye-opening and exciting compared to just handing them a PDF pen test report, which doesn't really excite many people, let's be honest, unless you're an actual pen tester. So yeah, that was the first adventure of my spy pen. Yes, got some good footage.
Well, that's the other thing, that even if they do ask for a PDF report, because you've got video, you can just take frames. So that's the other nice thing.
Constantly recording.
So it works both ways. You could send them, if they request it, the entire footage. Or if they just want, hey, can you show us proof that you got into this area? Like, well, here's a frame from the video.
It's exactly that. And just going back to the areas we were targeting as well, when we're walking around with our spy pens, the areas we did get into in
spy pen. I didn't get one. I wasn't good enough to get a spy pen.
You were the junior.
We were both juniors, damn it.
It was the public areas that were really important for that. In any of these kind of engagements, public areas are really interesting spaces if you've got one attached to a building. And in hotels, especially when you're targeting them, there are places you expect people to go and be free or walk around. And yeah, for us, like the cinemas, the public meeting rooms, the communal areas, staff tend to expect people to be there. So yes, we could find their fatal flaws. The fact we could find things like active floor ports that we could just get access to without really having to register to be anywhere or any kind of oversight into why we were there. A guy with a laptop just sat in a cinema plugging into an Ethernet port didn't seem to like trigger alarm bells. We got control of the internal network from there, but those sorts of public spaces are really hard to get a grip on defensively. And our next one after that we did was in a hospital, which is even more public.
Legendary.
Legendary it is. But it's an even more
The
public
thing about
place.
hospitals, I feel like the problem with doing social engineering engagements in hospitals is it's cheating.
It is like running around with God
Because-
mode on.
Yeah, the thing is, they're vast. There's so many places you can go. All the people there are already incredibly stressed because they're literally saving lives. The last thing they care about is anyone just looking out of place, because honestly, that's the problem. They see so many new people every day.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was so many. Like we got into like, we didn't go to like the surgery places. Like that's the other thing. You gotta have rules. You gotta set yourself rules. Don't contaminate stuff. You're in a hospital, so like we were basically, I think we went into like one scanning, like an X-ray scanning room, and like logged into the PC there, like it was unlocked. But other than that, it was mostly just like trying to see if we could access the network from various locations. And then the final bit was literally, I remember that it was the easiest social engineer, right? It was basically just following somebody in after they opened a door.
The classic.
And this was like the records department. Yeah, we went to the records department and just waited because you had to scan in. So we waited for somebody to scan and open the door, and then we just followed them in, and they didn't check.
Classic.
And yeah, it's something that happens all the time. Not even criticizing them, because yeah, it just happens. People, like you said earlier, people tend to like being helpful.
Yeah.
And holding a door open to someone is really helpful. Unfortunately, when it comes to security, being helpful is actually slamming the door in their face and saying, no, scan in.
Yeah.
That's actually more helpful in general
Yeah.
than just holding the door open.
You may look like a complete dick, but in general, to your organization, it's the most helpful thing to do. And it's the same if you're carrying like big heavy boxes or something like that. That's another favorite trick, isn't it? Because people open doors for you, or hold doors open. Or if you're carrying like a big stack of keyboards for the IT department, like the chances of people asking questions are fairly slim. So it's one of those things, just playing on people's good nature. And you feel horrible doing it sometimes if you think about it too much. Trick is not to think about it too much.
Yeah.
And just waiting it out and being patient sometimes. A lot of people, when they start red teaming, they go too quick, or they try to run before they can walk. You don't really you've got all day to do that bit of a task. You don't have to do it all in the first 10 minutes you bust through the building and through the front door. Don't rush it all and just run past reception and get rugby tackled to the ground. It just doesn't make sense. Take your time with it. Suss the place out, suss the building out. But I've got weird memories of that place. Just we ended up walking around literally every inch of the hospital, pretty much, apart from the really sensitive areas like with active operations going on. Just me and you and a couple of scrubs, just with our gloves. Stand back, guys! I've got this.
Scalpel, Andy.
Making incision into the left phalange.
I do remember when we were in the records department, which is, I say records department, it was basically the back offices of the building. And I remember we just walked randomly into like one of the actual, so it's an open floor plan, but there were offices for the higher up people, like the administrators and everything. And we just walked into one of their offices, closed the door, sat down at their desk, and their computer was unlocked. So we just sent ourselves an email from their account. that was another fun thing you can do, because it doesn't leave anything malicious. Like another thing is like leaving like a card that says I was here, but people can throw that away, right? If you don't want to get caught, you can throw it away. Sending an email from somebody's account if it's unlocked, and then deleting the sent email, and then you've literally got, well, here's a screenshot of my email. Here's my inbox. What's this email doing from your administrator in my inbox that says we sent this from your desk, it was unlocked, etc.
I did the internal pen test of that place as well.
I think we did it at the same time.
We did. That was really bizarre, because after we had done the social engineering, they came to us and said, we were all quite shocked, because I think it was only like our second one or something like that we had ever done. We were like, but we got into all these places. And I remember the IT managers going, yep, yes, you did. And you don't seem
That's
shocked.
expected.
It's like, oh, okay. Yeah. So they weren't too shocked. I think they knew the state of their IT as well. I remember doing the pen test of it, and that was quite eye-opening as well, because there's a lot of resource sharing that goes on inside those sorts of organisations. Yeah, all over the place. That's all over the public sector, really. Like different trusts sharing things, different councils sharing bits of network and bits of IT teams. It seems to happen quite a lot. But yeah, it was that case of we found a bunch of stuff like in the pen test, and we mentioned it to them, like quite critical things when we brought it up. Some very big vulnerabilities. Like the old MSO 867, we found a load of that kicking around because they had a load of Windows XP machines in there. And we're like, what are these Windows XP machines? I was like, oh, that's for the X-ray stuff. We're like, okay. It's like, you're gonna fix that? It's like, no, because it was part of another department's remit. It's
also probably you can't fix it. Like, it's probably the fact that at that time, at least, legacy software running on legacy machines, can't update it. Yeah, it sucks.
Yeah, it was legacy. It was out of date. That's why they're running XP, because they were so far behind. They were vendor locked and operating system locked as well. So they literally had nowhere to go with it other than spending. You know how things are in, I guess, probably the same in America, but over here, public sector means you add a couple of zeros onto the end of a cost for literally everything. And you see it, and they've overcharged for absolutely everything. They're away from IT just to basic resources. So yeah, it's a real hard one, them getting budget to upgrade stuff. But yeah, again, social engineering, powerhouse. But onto the last story then. So for this one, I think we'll come back to this because there's loads more social engineering stories than like the few we've covered today. The last one I want to share is a red teaming one because it's quite good fun to end on. And it links in with this whole exploitation of public spaces or communal spaces type of thing. So there's a large high-rise building in the middle of London. It's got loads of different tenants in it on different floors. So it's a shared building with a big shared reception downstairs. 5 or 6 other companies occupy 4 or 5 of the other floors in there each. So four floors each or something like that, roughly speaking. And that's the building we're trying to get into. But what was interesting about it is because they had the only way up really was via the lifts. There was like fire exits and things fire shafts where you could go down and like actually use the stairs, but they were all key carded off and alarmed. The main way up and down was through the elevators, and they were all, again, key card operation on all of them. Key card entry through the doors as well, the front, the little slidey doors to get through reception. So it's really quite a hard one to get into the building, like even with tailgating and stuff like that, because the second you go through one of those barriers, like the alarm goes off. So the barriers at the front were a no-go. And then even when you're in the elevator, you've got to look super suspicious and wait till someone pushes the right floor for you to go to even get to your target. So it's quite a difficult one to manipulate your way around. So your options at that point are really either you try some kind of extravagant QR code stuff with the actual barriers at the front and hope to get through, which we did do. And it turns out the QR codes are just incremental numbers, which was hilarious because you could just literally make a new QR code with an incremented number on top of the one you got for your guest pass, which is fantastic.
Oh,
that worked really well. But that's not the way in we went for. The way we did this is we sent someone in as a burner a few days before. And we've used this concept quite a lot. I probably shouldn't share it too many places. But yeah, we use the burner quite a lot. I'm sure many other people do as well. And we usually send someone round who we intend to get caught. So we almost send them in to do like a bad red teaming engagement because the amount of information you get, we mentioned it at the top of this episode, the amount of information you get from failing and for doing bad things or doing things wrong is so much. But it kind of makes sense to almost send a burner in. Not obviously saying who you are and where you're from, but send a burner in to gather information, to scope the place out, and almost to get caught. And the bloke we sent in was a chap called Gavin, and it's I know he won't mind me using his name, but we've used it so many times before that we now just call it doing a Gavin. It's in our term. So I'm hoping to spread that term around the industry, and hopefully one day everyone will just call it doing a Gavin. So you send Gavin in to do a few laps of a building, basically get caught, work out where security are. And what he was really good at was making notes as he went around and sussing out where security guards are, what times, what things they have, what features they have in the building, what public spaces they have or communal spaces they have. And it turned out in this large high-rise building, they also have a shared office space that you could book out. Like any guest could go and book out for an hour of time in this sort of shared meeting spaces. They were just like tiny little cubicle offices, like hot desking type of things. And you could book those. But what that gave you was access through the barriers at the beginning. So it took out that whole initial barrier because you could just go, anyone could go in with any name and just book some virtual meeting space for an hour. It's like a tenner or something to book it for an hour. So booked some space. We went in, went through the barriers, and we got access to the elevators and went up. We just tailgated and went up to the right floor then. But it takes that whole security guard conundrum out. It took the whole barrier conundrum out. And it left us with a situation of just going and finding the target and then tailgating the rest of the way. So yeah, look out for things like that. Do a Gavin, send someone in, get them to literally just make notes of who's on what floor, what they do, what type of activities they do as well. Do they expect deliveries on a regular basis? Because that's the other thing we sussed out was the company above had regular deliveries from DHL outside of hours. So we worked out we can go back out of hours pretending to be a delivery guy and no one would bat an eyelid. So it's worth doing, collecting.
High-vis jacket, delivery,
high-vis jacket.
All that. Yeah. It just works. It really just works.
We got a guy into a bank branch once by pretending he was a plumber. So he had a high-vis jacket and like a plunger. And he went in there claiming there was a leak. And that stuff works. But yeah, communal spaces, they're the best. Go and suss them out. They're usually the weak spots into a building or organisation. They work really well.
Yeah. It is just about honestly finding that weak spot, and then everything else it's like dominoes. Like it's why social engineering engagements are so successful.
Yeah.
You just need to find one way in and then you're in.
Yeah. And like we've said already, take your time with it. You don't need to bust the whole thing in the first 10 minutes. Like the Gavin scenario, he was 2-3 days beforehand, just casually walking around. Take the time, learn it, suss out the buildings, work out the weak spots, and then execute your plan. Otherwise, it's just going to crumble. And you end up pinned up against a wall with a security guard, like I did the first time round.
Hiding in a toilet.
Hiding in a toilet, yes. Don't do that.
Gavin wouldn't do that.
Gavin wouldn't do that, no. Take lessons from Gavin, not Andy. All right.
Awesome. Thank you for listening. I've been Tib3rius. He's been Andy Swift. This has been Across the Pondcast. You can find all of our social media links in the episode description or on acrossthepondcast.net. And we will see you next time.
Tatty bye, folks.